Nothing sucks like being limited, right? Well, in the world of writing, not necessarily, and today I'm going to explain why. What's up, guys? My name is Brandon McNulty. I'm a writer, I'm the author of Bad Parts, and welcome to my writing channel. Today I wanted to discuss limitations, and limitations sound like something that should just crush us as writers and they should prevent us from getting what we want, but they're actually something that if we embrace them, we can find creative ways to work around them and achieve great things. Every writer out there will face limitations in their life. They will face two types of limitations. They will face external limitations and internal limitations. First, I want to talk about those external limitations. And these are imposed on you usually by your audience or by whoever is paying the bills. Whoever is buying your stories will usually impose some form of limitation on you. Now, these limitations might have to do with the storytelling medium that you're working with. For instance, novels have a lot more leeway as far as what you can put in them and how long they can be, as opposed to if you're writing a script for a movie or a TV series. And of course, if you're writing for a movie, it usually has to be around 90 minutes to 2 hours long. If you're writing for a TV series, it might be 30 minutes, might be an hour, might have to factor in commercials. And then if you're writing for comics or video games, you have all kinds of different things you have to work around there. So you will often face limitations here on what, as far as time constraints, and also think about content as well, because different audiences will expect different content. Now, when we talk about content, we might talk about genre tropes. For instance, if you're writing for a romance audience, they're going to expect a couple in there. They're going to expect some love scenes. They're going to expect a happy ending in most cases. Now, if you're writing for a horror audience, you're going to expect probably just the opposite. You're going to expect a lot of death and blood and massacre and darkness. And different audiences are going to want different things, so you have to factor that in as well. Another thing to consider is that certain audiences, and depending on if you're writing for like the movies or for television, certain audiences will demand that you censor certain aspects of a story. And this is something like if you ever think of like television, if you are writing for broadcast television, you can't say things like fuck that motherfucker on your broadcast TV show on NBC. You're not going to get away with that. But I mean, if you're writing for like a horror audience in a novel, you can say as much as you want there. Now, a cozy mystery audience, not so much. So you have to be aware of these things. And I think one of the great things about these types of limitations is that they can challenge you to find creative ways around them. Think about it, like how the 90s TV series Seinfeld used to get around all kinds of different things. Because I mean, this was a show that was on NBC in the 90s. You couldn't say certain things. You couldn't discuss certain subjects explicitly. And yet Jerry and the gang would always find ways around it. They would find creative euphemisms to discuss things like the contest or their sexual escapades or whatever it was. And in this show, they had so many fresh ideas because they were limited by what the network expected them to say. So if you are writing types of stories like this and you feel like, okay, well, I'm writing for a certain audience, maybe you're writing for a younger audience and you can't say certain things, find creative ways around it. Use things like metaphors and euphemisms to get around your limitations. Another thing to consider is that sometimes if you limit what you can write about, you can actually get that writing done faster and you can be more focused. For instance, sometimes if you tell a writer to write about anything, they shit themselves. They don't know what to write about because they have so many possibilities and they don't know even where to begin picking and choosing. But if you tell a writer to write something specific, like if you say to them, write a story about an 80-year-old grandmother thrown in a rusty prison cell who has to break out of it, they at least have a character and a scenario and they know where to take it. So if you do find yourself in those situations where you have too much freedom, try to limit yourself and try to stick to one idea or maybe a couple ideas until you get back on track and until you find your focus. Now, the second type of limitations are internal limitations. These are personal limitations that basically are your fault. They usually happen to do with things like skill level and ability and knowledge. For instance, I'm not capable of writing a detailed medical thriller because I don't have a whole lot of medical knowledge. But that doesn't mean that I can't write a great novel. I mean, I just have to write about something that fits my area of expertise and something that I can use my skills and my abilities to bring to life. Now, every writer is going to have flaws as far as what they're capable of. For instance, you might be really strong in some area like dialogue, but you might be weak when it comes to setting descriptions. And that's okay. It's okay to be weak in one area, because as long as you have strengths, you can hammer down those strengths, you can get good at them, and you can let those bring your story to life while slowly working on overcoming your difficulties with whatever you're weak in. And keep in mind that no matter what area you struggle in, there will always be an audience that doesn't care. For instance, if you write great dialogue, there are going to be audiences out there that love to gobble up great dialogue, great conversations between characters. And if you write a story that has this great dialogue that they're looking for, they will be interested in it, they will read it, they will enjoy it, even if your setting descriptions are bland or underdone. And they might recognize that. They might say, well, you know what? These setting descriptions aren't the best out there, but I love the dialogue so much and it brings the characters and the scenario to life that I don't even care. So keep that in mind. Your audiences, they will often overlook your flaws as long as you deliver on your strengths. That's something that's very important. What you know and what you're passionate about is going to give your audience the best types of stories. So I hope this helps. And remember that all writers face limitations, whether they be external or internal. And you just have to accept them, you have to embrace them, and you have to find creative ways around them. Question of the day: what are your strengths and weaknesses as a writer, and how do you work around those weaknesses? Let us know in the comments section below. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to check out my other videos, hit the like and subscribe buttons for me, share this video with a friend, pick up a copy of Bad Parts if you haven't already, and as always, remember to keep on writing.